Morning team, we're going to go over NOPC 101 today. As our real estate agents at Sandestin, but also as some of your homeowners have asked, we want to give you some basic details about the NOPC in a nutshell. I'm going to speak from a couple of perspectives. I'm a homeowner and I've been here 16 years. I have businesses in the village, so I have the commercial business ownership perspective. I do work in real estate, so I understand the real estate market. But overall, those goals are simply pointed to the same fact that we want to have a nice property in good quality condition, not overcrowded, not overpacked, and managed very well. In addition to that, I'm on the SOA board and on the BW&A board, so again, I have some insight to some of those different opinions and viewpoints that I want to share with you today. But let's just start with the very basic things that some of you guys have asked me about the NOPC. In Walton County, when you go to build something, you fall under the Land Comprehensive Code. That's the department that basically says what your setbacks and stormwater runoff are, and traffic and concurrency, anything that you have to do to be able to build it falls under the Land Comp Code. In the state of Florida, we have an opportunity for larger developments to obtain a development of regional impact. That's DRI. So in 1972, when the visionaries wanted to create Sandestin, and I'm going to draw the north side and the west side, and there's 98 and there's the beach side, they thought, well, this big giant wad of property needs to be developed as a development of regional impact, because we'd like to just basically put in a bucket what we're allowed to build on this property and then use it as we go along, instead of continually going back up to the Land Comprehensive Code and getting permits for all of these individual developments. So back in 1976, this was approved for 10,000 residential units, several hundred acres of commercial space, and a number of other things, and the final is a ratio basically of how much open space or green space is required. So that just simply means you can't overbuild it. There has to be some areas that are pervious and there's some areas that are impervious to make sure that the infrastructure is balanced. So let's fast forward a little bit, go straight to 1984. Now we have different ownerships through here. Peter Boss, Sam Darby, Intrawest, Fortress, and during this process, every time something is built, it has to be deducted from the total. So come to 1984, there were some changes made in the DRI, and overall they said no matter how many you build, we'd like you to take that total down. So it dropped down to somewhere in the 8,000s, I'm sorry, and then continually more development came, and so they're subtracting their usages out of here, and this number was decided to be brought down to around the 7,000 range, which would be the maximum capacity. Okay, so with that, let's stop in 2002. So let's freeze right there for just a minute. 2002 was the last year that Intrawest filed an annual report with the Walton County Board. Walton County allowed all this time to go by without an accurate report given. So imagine the ownership in 2002 says, we've had this number of units, and we've developed this and this and this and this and this, and the reconciliation, the count is supposed to be here. And that count was arrived at in 2002. Fast forward, Mr. Becknell buys the resort in 2010, and SDI says, Sandestin Investment says, wow, what do we have? Well, that should be easy. We're going to take the 2002 count, and we're going to deduct everything that's been built to date in that count. So the village, luau, etc. And if you do that minus that, you should get to this. So when Sandestin went to pull permits for a variety of different things, Walton County said, we don't see that number matching. 2002 minus everything doesn't seem to equal out for us, and there have been a lot of meetings back and forth to try and determine what that real number is. Finally, Walton County said, you know what, SDI, the only way we're really going to get this straight is if you file what's called a notice of proposed change. And this notice should indeed identify and measure every existing thing on this property. So Mr. Becknell proceeded to survey the entire property, to count everything built in residential and in commercial, and in a variety of other topics, ancillary, clubs, and indeed in open space, so that the ratio corrects. Now here's a little bit of a challenging part. When we look at open space, there are a variety of definitions. So if you don't ever want anything ever to happen in this resort again, you want to use the interpretation of open space that says we're completely maxed out. And if you do want to see any growth and development, you might take the interpretation of the definition that says we still have plenty of space to build. So regardless of the turnout of this interpretation, the number of residential units left when all this tallying is done is not in controversy. We went from 10 to 8 to 7 minus everything that was built, and we're at 1,873 residential dwelling units. That is a fact. If indeed we have enough open space to support a portion or any portion or all of that, then Sandestin Investments has property rights to build this number of units. If indeed it is found that the open space definition is not in that favor, then the DRI is still, or the declarant is still considered non-compliant. But not only can he not build that, no permits can be built for any improvements. So a bulkhead, a pump house for the golf course watering stations, a roof on a commercial building, maybe a restaurant that you enjoy going to, replenishing or renovating the health clubs. Any of those things can now not be permitted as well. So we're really attempting to avoid the extreme, all out, full on, get crowded development or nothing at all ever again, which is where the SOA and SDI got together and said, maybe we have a compromise here. Maybe if we decrease this and we're able to build some things, we can keep the maintenance going and we can address some opportunities for parking, traffic management, and the like. Maybe we can meet in the middle. And so through the SOA board members and SDI came up with what we called the compromise, 1,096 units. Remember, in the DRI, there are no height restrictions and there are no requirements to say exactly what you're going to do. You just keep your stuff in your bucket and you can use it when you need to within certain categories. And in this case, they said, Mr. Beck, now if you would agree to come down to this, we would really want to know what you're going to do with that though. So for the first time, we would self-impose height restrictions to match whatever was being built in those areas, and indeed bring the count down. But don't forget, even if that would be approved, you still have to go to the county to take any portion of this. So let's just say we have a 150 unit complex that he would like to build. He still has to go to the county to get permitted stormwater, traffic, concurrencies, easements, setbacks, all the things that go with a regular development. So no one has asked him to run free with development, but the SOA did indeed say, let's look at this more responsibly. We don't want the place to deteriorate, but we also don't want it overloaded. Maybe there's something in the middle. The other question I've been asked is, are you going to take away all the surface parking? Well, the answer is this. When you build a building, you can definitely build the lower floors to be parking garages to make up for surface parking that might be there now, and then be able to have the condominiums or hotel rooms, whatever, above that. The other question we've been asked is, are you taking my golf course away? Because I bought a house and I live on the golf course. And the answer is no. There are a few holes that are on 98 that do not back into anyone's home that have been considered for redevelopment. Now, Mr. Becknell did have Robert Trent Jones and the original team of developers of the golf course look at some opportunities to change the whole the composition of where the holes are and what we would do with them in a very organized and quality manner. So the answer is, if you live over here and your golf course touches you, that is not a hole that would be affected. So overall, the end result today is, we went to the SOA advisory board meeting and we asked the 72 homeowner presidents and all of the commercial seats if they could live with this type of plan. The commercial division said yes, they voted in favor, and the residential side voted no, we're not in favor of that. So at this point, quite frankly, that really becomes almost irrelevant. At this point, on January the 21st, which is this Thursday, there will be a hearing at the Walton County Board of County Commission, and they will hear this entire notice of proposed change explanation and all of the sides that support or deny property rights to SDI, and they will make a decision about the fate of this particular NOPC that sits on the books now. So I think that in a nutshell, if you have further questions from your homeowners, I want you to send them to me at kitty@sandestin.com, and we'll take it from there. And then, of course, you all are invited to Thursday's Board of County Commission meeting over at the South Annex. Okay? Thanks.